On today's lesson, we are going to learn a little bit about kanji origins and how to learn them. So the topics that we are going to talk about today are the history, development, character simplification, coming to Japan, and how to study kanji. And Tarek, whether you're going to talk about later.
Oh, sumimasen. Okay, also, we're going to be talking about the kanji etymology. So, where kanji kind of comes from, what different kanji means. We're going to be looking at kanji readings and giving you an insight to how kanji is built and made.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Alright, so the earliest confirmed evidence of the Chinese-born script was from inscriptions carved on oracle bones from the Shang dynasty that was like 1250 before Christ or something. They would take turtle shells or animal bones and they would burn them to ask questions to the skies. And over 150,000 fragments have been found to date. So when those were burned, they formed cracks that were analyzed to compare to real-life elements. And they copied them down, or effectively writing them to create the writing system. And it was engraved to send the message back to the gods to ask for rains or something like that. The writing system was called Oracle Bone script, and it's also known as the tortoise shell script. It was a logographic or ideographic system, but it also used rebus, as it was called, that's sound writing. The writing system was composed of two distinct parts, the semantic and phonetic, and most people know them as the radical or the phonetic component. Okay, so in development, the characters went through a lot of simplifications and changes, such as writings in bronze inscriptions later. But although various scripts are parallel to the Oracle Bone script, the mainstream script just evolved, assuming the form that is now known as the seal script. Later, there is a photo of it right there. The seal script becomes standardized and adopted as the formal script in all of China, but it was still widely used as decorative engraving in the Han Dynasty period. So the regular script was born during the end of the Han Dynasty, that was around 189 after Christ. So there was like 1,000 years or so of development on this stage. The new script is the now dominant modern Chinese script, and it was developed out of a semi-cursive script with addition of the pause technique to end horizontal strokes that we call those the sharp stops nowadays, and the heavy tails on strokes which are written to the downward right diagonal on most of the kanjis. So in that photo we can see the development that went through along all those stages. So meanwhile, the modern cursive script emerged from the clerical cursive script during the Cao Wei to Jin period, under the influence of both the semi-cursive script and the regular script, which then it was formalized. Okay, so simplification. China character simplification predates the Republic in 1949, but Japan simplification, that's called Shinjitai, were the simplified forms of the kanji used in Japan since the Toyo kanji list in 1946. Shinjitai was created by reducing the number of strokes in the Kyujitai, that's the old character form. And the unsimplified kanji usually was the same of the traditional Chinese characters, as you can see on the image down there. The simplification was achieved similarly to Chinese ones, replacing the phonetic component with another one that has the same sound. So maybe that was a reason that some kanji are really lost in meaning when they try to figure out what it means. Or it replaces a complex component with a simpler to draw one. But know that the modern Chinese one is different from the Japanese ones nowadays. So all of the characters have a specific stroke order that helps making it easier to write them and even prettier if you follow the stroke order. And it allows you to search them on dictionaries and digital dictionaries also, so you can draw the kanji. And most of the times, if it's a complicated kanji, you will only find it if you know the right stroke order. So coming to Japan, Japan probably acquired kanji with Chinese speakers that came via the Korean peninsula. At this point, the Japanese speakers didn't have a writing system, and it's not known when exactly they started using. It was probably sometime around 500 AD, and we know that groups called Fuhito were formed to read classical Chinese, so it was probably getting wider acceptance around that time. So the Chinese words that were borrowed into Japanese could be written with the Chinese characters, but the native Japanese words would also need to be written or using the Chinese characters. So most kanji have the native Japanese pronunciation that's known as Kun'yomi, and the Chinese-based pronunciation that's known as On'yomi. But because the Chinese-based pronunciation is from the ancient Chinese, at the time that the characters came to Japan, it's not the same pronunciation as we have in modern Chinese. And because the words have been borrowed from various dialects at the same time, a single character can have a lot of different onyomi readings. There is also a nanori reading that is used for proper names. Also, written Japanese includes a pair of syllabaries that's known as kana, and it's derived by simplifying the Chinese characters selected to represent syllables of Japanese. The syllabaries differ because they were selected with different characters for a syllable, and because they use different strategies to reduce the characters. The katakana is angular and were obtained by selecting a part of each character, just cutting that part out, and hiragana was derived from the cursive form of the characters. And modern Japanese uses the composite system, using kanji for word stems, hiragana for inflectional endings, that's called okurigana, kanji readings, that's called furigana, and grammatical words, and katakana to describe non-Chinese loanwords, as well as to serve as a method to emphasize native words, such as onomatopoeias. It's similar how to italics work on Latin script languages. Yeah, this was the slide that just showed the names.
So yeah, so this if you can see my mouse.
Yeah, it's kanji, okurigana, furigana, and katakana down there.
Yeah, and then there's katakana and hiragana as well.
Yeah.
You can see the difference in the shape as well.
Yeah, one is a lot angular and one is more like cursive and well drawn. There is a lot of speculation that in the old times katakana used to be written only by men and hiragana used to be written only by women, but it was with the changes in writing that was cut out.
So, and especially as Japanese became more standardized and became more international, katakana became more used for foreign loanwords a lot more frequently. So, there you.
Yeah, this is the kind of development chart that you can. It's just like a cool trivia to know that those were the characters that came from which kanji. There are even some characters in there that you can probably recognize that you don't see too much nowadays because they were removed from the modern Japanese writing.
Yeah, like this one.
Yeah, the E sound and the E sound. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you go to this side. Oh shoot! this, this one again. You wouldn't see
Yeah,
that.
it's the E and the E also.
Yeah, those are so. But you can see that all of them came from Kanji.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, also
go on.
also the no character in hiragana is one of the easiest examples, because if you try to write the kanji that it came from like really fast and with one stroke you can get the hiragana.
So then, yeah, because what if you trace it like that sort of direction?
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Even like this one as well, you can kind of see how it comes from this. Like this left
Yeah.
side of nu is like kind of similar, and you got this right hand side which kind of has a similarity in terms of having that loop at the bottom. Kind of it's
Yeah.
there as well. But I mean, this doesn't too looks nothing like, it's like completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if anyone got any questions,
Yeah, now the history time is over.
yeah. So if you want to, you can just ask questions in just drop in the Japanese learning discussion chat. Or you can just ask them.
Yeah.
If not, we'll move on to the next section. But you can see, like for example, that kanji has a long history, and actually, it's the only pictorial language, pictorial script. The Chinese script is the only pictorial script still in existence today. In fact, all the other languages have either gone to their own alphabet system or to a script system like Arabic or Hindi.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
and even like in Korean, I didn't mention it, but Korean started with kanji too, but they simplified it to, I think it's called Hangul,
Hangul, yeah.
and it's totally different right now. The kanji there is only used for really bureaucratic reasons like law and stuff. Oh, it's hanja. Yeah, sorry.
I think Hanja's the
Yeah, the
Romanized.
kanji. Yeah,
Is that the Roman? Oh, is Hanja? Oh, Hanja's how you say kanji in.
yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Saw that. Yeah, and then Hangul is the script,
Yeah.
which again most of the civilizations that adopted the Chinese kanji, besides Japanese, got rid of the Chinese script because they wanted to make the language more accessible for working class and farmers. Most of these
Mm-hmm.
countries, such as China or Korea, they were agricultural societies, so a lot of people didn't have the access to education. That it was in the 1500s when the Korean king decided that they were going to have the Hangul system to make it easier for everybody to read. So a lot of systems got rid of the Chinese characters that they used, but Japanese kept theirs. Although there's kind of debate whether Japan should get rid of them or whether they shouldn't. But
Yeah, and Japanese is one of yeah, I think it's the language with the most writing systems, because they have kanji, katakana, hiragana, and
yeah,
nowadays with globalization they also use the Roman
a
characters
lot.
and the
Yeah,
Arabic numbers. So
yeah.
it's like five systems.
We all merged into one. Not
Yeah.
including as well, like punctuation, like exclamation mark, question mark.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
use all those systems that isn't theirs. They just implement it into their language. So it's got all these different scripts, and native learners might come across it and think, why has it got all this? Why can't it just be a lot simpler, like Korean, for example? But it's I think it's unique in that sense. I do like it the way it does that. But yeah, so if there's no other questions, then I will go on to my section, which is I just skipped kanji etymology. So essentially kanji is pictures. So each picture has a meaning. Some kanji the meaning is lost, but with these 5 kanji in particular, the meaning is still there. I wonder if by just looking at it very literally, can you guess the meanings of the kanji? You can just comment down in the Japanese learning section, just what kanji you think that is. But yeah, so you can kanji can be pretty much as simple as this, or as complicated, really complicated. But as you start to look into the kanji, each and every kanji is made up of smaller components, and that smaller components carries meaning to the rest of the kanji. And so when you look at it like that, kanji isn't as complicated as you think. If you look at some of the most complicated kanji, and there's some really, really complicated ones out there, if you just break that down, you can see it's made up of separate components. And actually, the fact that some of the kanji still retains that meaning, you can be like, wow, it's kind of cool how that's still that's how that's still retained its meaning after so long. But yeah, let's see what people have said. So
Yep, first one is person, that's right. Third one is tree, that's right. Second, mouth, that's right.
yeah,
Rice field, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, just the fourth one is wrong.
Yeah, so the fourth one's wrong. So everyone's got it right there. That's true.
Yep.
Now, if when I explain it, it'll make sense. What this is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can see with this one, person, because it's just 2 legs. So it's a person walking. Mouth, the mouth opens when you're speaking, so it's literally in the shape of a mouth. The tree, you can imagine this is the trunk, these are the branches. Again, it's all very literal. This is a rice paddy, so you can see again, you can imagine the rice fields, and it's separated into different sections. And the rice paddy kanji represents those different sections of fields. Is it true that the person kanji is based on the idea of one person helping out another? I think I have heard that before, and I'm not sure.
I haven't ever seen that, but many of the characters were just like we are trying to do it now. When they hit the oracle bones, they try to imagine if some of the cracks look like something. So one person randomly saw that and thought, oh, that looks like a person, you know?
Which is interesting because it does look like a person. Was it like random? They cracked those oracle bones and was that just a random pattern that they found from as a result of the ritual that they did? That it happened to look like a person in some form.
Yeah, they just try to like look for messages. It's like when you try to look at the clouds and try to see something and see like, oh, that looks like a person. Right? That's kind of what they did.
I think that, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just that the kanji is a little step above that because they are compound ideographics.
Hmm.
So maybe you try you get something and get and mix it with another thing. So like the tree kanji with the mouth kanji is a fruit if I'm not wrong because like you can get the fruit and put it in your mouth. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
they mix things and do another meanings.
So, so yes, it's pretty cool the way that it's actually it's really cool how they do that. And I mean, for this one, this is, let's see if anyone types it. um, Otherwise, I want to say it, but I won't. So
Yeah, you will spoil them if
yeah,
you
yeah.
continue
I don't
writing.
know if you guys are typing the answer or you're typing something else. It's not quite fish bones.
No.
No.
Yeah, the comb one is somewhat different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind. It's got the same like arms coming off like um like a straight line, and it's got some arms coming
Yep.
off that comb one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
Natsu got it right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hand. So as you can see, I mean, you can just imagine these are fingers. So these are fingers. That's like the middle of the hand, and that's connecting to the arm. It's not literally a
Six
hand.
fingers.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's six.
maybe you can try to imagine it as the strokes in your hand too, if you look at your palms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. Actually, if that seems more realistic than trying to imagine these are fingers, then that's probably a better way to remember that. It probably doesn't look like a hand, but yeah. So you can see they're quite literal overall. We create some more meanings, and we can see this is the old kanji for this, which is means to see. What you can see here is an eye. You can see a line. As you can see, as it's in its developed version, they're legs. So an eye on legs, which you can
Yeah,
see.
it kind of looks like he's squatting, trying to
Yeah,
see something.
trying to yeah. So it's kind of, if you can see that, you can, that's to see. So it's which means this kanji is I. So this kanji is I. So you can see, like, again, literal meanings. Um, Here you've got the kanji for person, the kanji for tree, and you've got this kanji which means to rest, because you got the person is resting on a tree. So you can imagine that the person's walked for quite a while, and that would probably be the case in agricultural Japan, where there's, a lot. If you want to go somewhere, you travel a long time, you might stop and sit under a tree, get some shade. So that's probably where this concept has come from, of a man resting on a tree to mean to rest. Again, you add a tree with a tree, you get more trees. You add the trees and the more tree, you get even more trees. So this is a forest, and this is woods. So it's like completely literal. It makes sense. Pretty much makes sense. So komorebi, I've not heard of that actually. So I've not actually heard of that. So is that what do you know the kanji for that, or the meaning of that? Because I've not heard of that actually. I might be learning something new. Which is a cool thing about kanji, because it's like there's just so much history to it. You just find out different stories to kanji. It's interesting because I found yesterday there's a apparent origin story for baka. Baka means idiot in Japanese. But the kanji that's used for that particular word, it has deer and it has horse. And the origin story apparently is that a new king elected into power, and to test the loyalty of his subjects, he got a deer and he told his subjects to say, "That's a horse." He said, "That's a horse," and they said, "Oh yeah, that's a horse." And if they said that's a horse, if they called the deer a horse, the king knew that if he did something corrupt, they would support him. So that's an apparent origin story of Baka, which means deer horse, which is like really cool. I don't know if it's true, but that it's an unknown where that word came from, but but there's been stories from like 1400s which suggest that was the origin story, and that shows in Chinese sayings, and there's even a Japanese saying for it, but I can't remember what that was. But so common.
Even if it's fake, it helps to remember them. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, komorebi. Okay. I see. So yeah, komorebi, you got the tree, and the. I can't. I think that kanji means like, is it flowing? Flowing?
I think
It's a
it.
flow.
Yeah, I think it's
It's to flow,
flow
yeah.
or to drip or something like that.
Yeah. So you can imagine. So you got the tree. ちょっと待って. I'm gonna quickly hop out a second.
Yeah.
We got. Oh, so slow. Okay. Just thought it'd be easier to draw stuff. So there's key. There's. 筆ちょっと待って。すいません. Stroke order is kind of not working today. So you got. See, ちょっとね、木漏れ日. So this is the word 木漏れ日. And this is actually going to show you how hiragana and kanji comes together to make words. This is your re. This is your bi. So komorebi. You can see that's a kanji for tree. That's a kanji for day. So it's also the kanji for sun as well. So you can imagine during the. So this is the sun. And you got the tree, and then this means to flow. So you got the sun flowing through the trees. So you can kind of see the meaning through that. So the dictionary says to escape or leak. So you can see that it's kind of, so that means to escape, to leak. It's used if this kanji is used if someone's crying. I'm trying to figure out the word for tears now. Like, so it's like, for example, afureru is one of the pronunciations, which means to flow. So if you're flowing with tears, you might use that. So that's how you can see how kanji kind of works. Komore. This is a exception reading, but yeah. So that's how kanji works. Actually, interesting thing about the sun kanji, aka day kanji, this is used for days of the week. So you can imagine like each new sun is a new day, and as the moon is used for months. So the words slip my mind. When what's it called? The word that's associated with like the months and the tides, the waves, and the month changed.
Yeah,
speaking.
I forgot it.
I forgot the word. It'll come to me and I'll be like, oh yeah. So yeah, that means month, which makes sense in relation to that. if it's not tide, it's lunar. So it kind of represents lunar months. Anyway, I'll not get too sidetracked. But okay, let's just hop in. Will it go to the same slide?
Probably. Yeah.
Cool. Wait, did it show? Did everyone see the drawing? By the way, I think. Just checking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I was just checking that. Cool. So I just took a picture of like one of my favorite Japanese piano artists, and I just graffitied them with different kanji. But this is just to show you the meanings behind kanji and how it looks similar to actual features. So this is, for example, you got the kanji for eyes. You can imagine that middle part with the horizontal lines. That in the middle, you can see that. You can imagine that's an eye. Imagine that's an eye there. There you got your ears. You can imagine ears with all its folds and stuff, and kind of looks like an ear. You got kubi, which is actually, I believe, so you got the neck. You can imagine that's the head. You can imagine that's the body. So
Yeah. The top part about the of that kanji is animal horns. It's a radical for animal horns.
that's
So
true. Yeah.
uh, the story I used to remember it is that like animals need to have strong necks to support their horns.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Which makes sense, and then all of a sudden you can remember that straight away at any point. It's
Yeah.
pretty good. But I just have, and this wasn't planned. You can see that for nose, I've just happened to have the legs representing the nostrils of the actual face. So you can imagine those nostril holes, and imagine this is just like a nose body, I suppose. Yeah, so you got the kanji for hair. So you got this, which means fur, and it comes together with the rest of the kanji, and it means hair. You've got this, which is your that's your hand. That's a modification of this kanji for hand. Can anyone guess what this kanji is then? Hey, just comment it down and guess what that kanji is. And then you got this kanji here, which is your shoulder. You can see this flag is resting. You could say it's. I mean, that's not even a good example.
Yeah, that is a fun example because it's the door radical with the part of the body, the meat radical.
Yeah.
So you can kind of guess that the shoulder is the part of the body that's the easiest to open a door with.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. That's a better way of what I was. That's better way of remembering it than what I was thinking. Actually, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a finger. It's a finger kanji.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a finger kanji. Yeah, it's pronounced yubi. I was thinking that either that's the arm, and then the middle part could be an imaginary joint, and that's just the top part of the arm, maybe. But I don't know. The cool thing is the kanji, you can make little stories to help you remember. So
Yeah.
we will talk about that later on, but that's something that really helps. Yeah, go to some contextual meanings. You got rice paddy, and this is the kanji for power, which makes man. So you can imagine in like agricultural China, you growing the rice. They need power to be harvesting the crops. So it usually was the men that used to do the harvesting. So you can kind of see how that would make man out of that. So again, for towns, you can see that the towns would be where you'd have the fields, you'd have more people in order to feed more people. So it makes sense that the rice paddy is in the kanji. Now this is where we talk about kanji has certain components that might not mean anything for the meaning, but it's more for the pronunciation. This is pronounced cho. which means street, and it's a kase, which is like it's added for the phonetic sound. So you pronounce it as cho because it has that radical attached to it.
Yeah, that's the rebus part I was talking about in the history. The white dictionary sometimes contains meat radical is on the moon because they are drawn really. I think they are drawn the same way even. Or no, they aren't. They are a small modification, but the stroke order is the same and the stroke count is the same. I think that's why.
Wait, moon and meat kanji is considered the same. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah. Like if you look on the list, you can
yeah,
see moon is the one for me.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like,
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's not actually the kanji for meat. It's the radical for meat. Yeah,
yeah.
not to send the kanji for meat.
But then, I mean, if you want to take that interestingly, um, you could either read that, and this is how I read it, as you got two people inside the head, which is the outside part, but you got two people. I don't know why two people, because that looks like two people to me. Maybe it came from moon, but like
Mm,
to me that
mm.
looks like two people. I don't know why that would be the kanji for meat.
Uh, to remember that I use a story from Kanji Kuhi that the with just one person there, the kanji means inside. So there's another person inside of someone. So that's a cannibal eating human meat.
Actually, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. So if you take one person out of that kanji, that actually means inside. So you see, you can pretty much have fun with these kanji when you're learning it.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, going to Kun'yomi and On'yomi, which was briefly covered earlier. The Kun'yomi is a Japanese reading of the kanji. On'yomi is adapted version of the original Chinese reading. So, for example, here you got water. In On'yomi, you pronounce it as sweet, sweet, and I'll just let this move away. Kun'yomi, you'd pronounce that as mizu, mizu. So, rule of thumb when coming to approach Kun'yomi and On'yomi is used with jukugo, which is words made up of two or more kanji. Kun'yomi is used when the kanji is by itself. So I've got some example sentences. Now, don't worry if you don't understand the sentences, that's not the point of the lesson, but it's just to see where you'd use the meaning. So this is Kyou wa suiyobi desu. Kyou wa suiyobi desu. So you can see this kanji is part of a whole word. So it's this kanji, and this kanji. Okay, you can see the kanji for day, which I was talking about, like a new sun. So all these kanji come together, and because they've come together to make one word, you're going to use the On'yomi reading. However, in the bottom sentence, it says, if it's going to move out of the way, Mizu o nonde kudasai. Mizu o nonde kudasai. As you can see, it's the, or as you can't see, as you can see, it's the same kanji as the one used here, but it's by itself. It's used separately, so it's going to use Kun'yomi reading. So that's one way you can tell the reading from the other, whether it's Kun'yomi or On'yomi. There are exceptions, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that even like the kyo kanji, you can't really isolate them. The kyo reading is when they both are together.
yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, this when you separate this and this, you will never use this reading. Um, this is an exception. However, because kyo is so well popular and used all the time, that's not an exception you have to worry too much about. Usually, exceptions such as kyo you use quite often, so you don't have to worry about trying to remember the reading for that.
Yeah.
But this is just a general rule of thumb, so you don't have to try and think of what reading's best to use.
でも、あれは違うよ。今日は土曜日。
今日はあ、そうそう、すみません。すみません、間違えちゃったな。すみません。そう、今日は水曜日じゃなくて、今日は、いや、はい、土曜日ですよね。Unless, unless you're like 8 hours ahead right now, and you're in Nichiyobi, then that's Doyobi is also wrong. Yeah, Suyobi.
Yeah.
There's a problem. If you're watching this on YouTube, then it's probably something else. So yeah. But yeah, so you can see how Kun'yomi and On'yomi is used. I'll give another example. Kuchi, mouth. So this is our mouth kanji. On'yomi is ko. Ko. Kun'yomi is kuchi. Kuchi. When it's used on its own, me ga kuchi yorimo no iu toki ga aru. So it's on its own, so it's going to use kuchi. When it's used with another word here, it's used with the kanji for human, as we just covered. Chukoku no jinkou wa Nihon yorimo oi desu. So the population of China is larger than Japan's population. But you can see, because it's a word, it doesn't mean mouth, it means population. It's just funny, you can see population, you can see there's people, and it's got the kanji for mouth, so you've got people, well, that means there's a lot of mouths, that means there's a population of people.
Yeah, the mouth kanji also means whole, so you can try to think as a population as a whole that has a lot of people inside.
Yeah, so yeah, you could, there's many different ways of remembering those.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see when it's on its own, it's using different meaning to this. Now, phonetic sounds. So again, as I covered earlier with cho for town, when you had that nail-looking kanji, you have now this kanji which means life, which uses, whenever it's used in these kanji, it gives the pronunciation of se. So whenever you're using these in conjunction with another kanji to make a whole word, then you will be most likely pronouncing this as se. There are, as I said, there's other readings, but this is a main reading, so it can help. If you see that in a kanji, you might most likely read it as se. So that's something to look out for as well. If you're interested in looking into that when learning kanji. Now, kanji modifications. So we did cover te, hand, when we were looking at finger, and you can see the hand is modified and attached to this to make your finger. Now you can look at this one, which means hand, to hit. You can presume that's someone hitting someone with the hand. Again, this is hit. You're hitting someone. Throw, again, you're using your hand to throw something. The kanji for hold at the bottom, which is, again, you're using your hand to hold something, to pick up. You're using your hand to pick up something. Skill, most likely, again, in agricultural China or Japan, you'd be using your hands, you'd be using a lot of hand labor. So, again, you'd be skilled in a certain craft, so you can see where hand comes from, you can see where grasp comes from, using your hand push, using your hand sketch, using your hand to draw, and clap, using your hand. So you can see that there's logic behind the madness. It's not just wow, it's just like crazy. There's like meanings, and yeah, same with heart. You got, this is the modification for heart. So you can see with all these kanjis for heart, you can see it it resembles emotions and feelings. So, or it represents a certain state of character, or mindset. So it's interesting in that sense. You can see that when you're studying kanji, it might be useful to look at a kanji with a similar radical and be like, okay, let me look for all those with that particular radical, and be like, okay, they're all similar. Okay, that'll help me to remember the kanji. So here's a website that I had found where you can. I'll post a link. I'll post a link at the end of the session. You can go and check this out to look at different the strokes for each kanji, and you can look at the readings if you're interested in looking at how the kanji is built up and what readings it might use. So you can use on'yomi. You can see how on'yomi and kun'yomi is used for one. And this is interesting. I chose one as a particular kanji for a reason, because actually it not only represents objects like one thing, one person, one day, the best. It represents abstract, such as the best, for example, which is literally number one, ichiban. But you got here abstract concepts. So if you're doing something, you're drinking something in one breath, you might be ikki. You're giving it your best. It's like you're doing it in one focused mindset. So that one represents that focus. Isho, when you're together, it's almost like you become one. You're both doing something together as one. So you see that kanji is used for abstract meanings as well as literal object meanings. You can see also that there's two different readings here. There's two different readings. So you got the ichi, when you're using counting in Japanese, ichi, ni, san, shi, go, roku. When you're counting like that, you'll use on'yomi. So here you're going to use on'yomi. Here it uses kun'yomi. Even this one, which is this is an exception, because even though it's two kanji, you're using kun'yomi, which is hitotsu. That's just the one kanji, so it makes sense for it to use the kun'yomi. But this is two kanji, and it uses both the kun'yomi readings. So this is an exception, which you'll find when you're learning Japanese and you're learning certain counters. Counters is like ways you count different objects and things in Japanese. So when you're counting people, you will use kun'yomi. So hitori means one person. So hitori o taberu, hitori o taberu. So that means like you're eating alone or by yourself. So hitori de taberu. If you're saying, so you'll use hitori when you're counting people, and when you're counting people, you use kun'yomi. When you're counting days, you will use kun'yomi usually. This is another exception because it's using this reading. There is another reading for this word, but you can also read it like this as well. So these are slight exceptions, just to remember as you go along. Don't worry about trying to remember the exceptions now. Don't worry if after the lesson you don't remember them quite. We will have future lessons where we go over counters and things like that. And plus, as you go along in learning Japanese, you'll pick these things up and recognize which meaning you'd use. There is patterns, even with the exception, there's certain patterns that you can remember, which I won't go into now, but it helps. Just learn readings as you approach them and as you come across them, rather than trying to learn all the meanings before you know the word to use the meaning. So I thought this was a really important kanji just for its meaning. So I presume everybody has heard of a chi. So Chi is like in traditional Chinese culture, it's like that force of any living entity, that force. It's a very Chinese concept, that idea of chi. In Japanese, it's pronounced as ki. Feeling, it means spirit, it means nature, mood, atmosphere. As you see all these words, with that kanji, it all carries that same chi element, that kind of sense of force. These two mean feeling. So here it's interesting because if you're feeling, it says this means to hold, as we explained, that's to hold, and that means your energy. So you're holding that energy, and that translates as feeling. There's an energy going through the electric, so that's electricity. There's a, that chi in your sickness, or you're ill, so that's your sickness, and so on and so forth. And we look at these little things here, like Kiyoyamu. Again, you've got that sick kanji meaning sick, and then you've got this chi. So if you've got a sick chi, a chi that is a bit ill, it's like you're worrying. So you can kind of see again how these meanings make sense. Kiotsukete, which means to be careful, is a common phrase in Japanese. Kiotsukete, be careful. Kiotsukete kudasai, that sort of thing, which uses this kanji to realize. So again, you're realizing something, an energy. Maybe it's something that you have to be careful for, that chi that's not right. So you can kind of see, if you look into kanji, if you want to look into it like that deep, you can see that it has that really cool, that meaning that is specifically to the culture of, China and Japan. So, and it helps you to kind of think in that language as you're speaking it as well. Again, just the final thing now, just you can see certain kanji have associative transformations. So you have the original kanji, which then it can be changed and adapted to mean something else. So this is the kanji for old, which is associated with thinking. So it's adapted a bit, and now it means thinking. So being old is associated with thinking. So maybe, old people, they maybe it's come from the fact that elder people, they have more sense of thinking, of thinking deeply about life and things. And you got this one, which means that means a child's respect. You got that old, so maybe you can see that a child, this is the kanji for child. A child is respecting older people.
That kanji is the kanji associated with filial piety. I think it's that how it's pronounced, and it's in China that's really used, as I've heard.
Yeah. It's so it's filial piety is like the child respecting their adults, isn't it? Like really respecting their elders. So you can see it's so revered that it's even implemented into the kanji itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you take that filial piety and its discipline, that child is essentially taught. So again, it's interesting. The old is looking down, looking after the child. Child looks up to the old person, and they're being disciplined, and the child is taught. And this is the kanji meaning to teach. You probably hear it often. Oshiete kudasai, oshieru, oshiete. That means to teach someone or to show somebody something. You would say that whenever you want someone to show you how to do something. So you can see where the meaning of that kanji comes from. So that's quite cool. Yeah. So Okay, so that's just a little insight into breaking down some of the kanji. And if anyone has any questions, you can either ask them here, voice, or you can just comment them down. So if not, we'll move on to the next section. But and actually, this section is going to be quite cool because we're going to show you how you can possibly now study kanji for yourself and how you can use some of the things that we've just talked about and other tools to help you to learn kanji in a way that is more effective. So, yeah. Alex, if you want to do the section then.
Alright.
Okay, doors up.
How to study kanji? So, you don't need to learn kanji in order to speak Japanese fluently, but it's important to learn it for several reasons, because if you don't learn it, you won't be able to read any materials in the language, and the greatest part about learning kanji is that once you've learned it, you can use them as walking sticks to learn new vocabulary. And one thing that I want to start saying is that there is no right way to learn kanji. There is no best method, even though a lot of people seem to try to say that they use the best method. Every method, if it teaches you kanji, it's the best method. Some will just save you time, some will just save you energy, but there's no best method.
But there are probably more effective ways. There's no best method,
Yeah.
but there's ways that might help you, it might not help you. It depends what kind of learner you are.
Yeah, one thing that's really important is that every second that you spend actually learning kanji instead of searching for the best method to learn kanji will save you a lot of time.
Yeah, you can spend ages looking for the right method. You'll never really actually get down to learning the kanji, which is what you want to do.
Okay, so alright, but what does learning kanji actually mean? It means to learn the meanings, to learn all the readings, to learn the stroke orders, and to learn how to write it. Although if you know the stroke order, you can probably write them down. Learning kanji usually just revolves around drilling and rote memorization and real-life interaction with them. So there are different approaches that you can use to learn kanji. So, the first method is the in-context learning. The context-based learning or in-context learning refers to the use of examples in teaching environments. So, applied to kanji, this means that learning the kanji will be done by learning them together with the words that use them, but not always learning the meanings of the kanji or the stroke orders of the individual kanji. You will just learn how to pronounce them and learn what the words mean. The methods that use the in-context learning are usually traditional textbooks. The out-of-context learning refers to methods that you will learn all the meanings, readings and stroke orders without using any interaction. This is not really used a lot, but it would be something like you will open your dictionary, learn all the readings and all the pronunciations for the kanji, and just leave it at that. You won't even study words that use them or meanings, individual meanings of them. It's a really weird method. And there's the mixed approach. They take the best from the in-context and out-of-context learning. The mixed approach applies a different mindset, and it consists of learning the kanji without the need to include actual words. But at the same time, you don't focus on cramming on all the readings for every single kanji and all the meanings. You just focus on the learning the meanings, radicals, and stroke orders, just the basic things in order to use them as walking sticks later on. So some popular methods that use the mixed approach are remember the kanji, Kodansha's Kanji Learner Course, that's the KKLC, and Wanikani. So I've also included a photo for Minna no Nihongo and Genki, that are two traditional textbooks that are widely used. So my recommendation for learning kanji is but remember, it's not the best method, it's just the method that I used. It's composed of three tools. Remember the kanji one that comes with the 2,200 kanjis. That's more than the Joyo kanji list that's taught on schools. The Kanji Kuhi website that contains user stories to the kanji, similar to the ones I was talking about earlier. So you can try to memorize kanji, but not by cramming them to your brain. You try to memorize story that looks like the kanji that you're seeing. And Anki, that's an space repetition system app. Is there a next slide?
Sure.
Or this is the last one? No, yeah, I didn't make slides for this. But Anki is the bread and butter of this method because it addresses the one of the best methods for learning in general. It makes use of something called the forgetting curve. Later I'll send a PDF that has more links to that if you guys want to research it in depth. But there is the forgetting curve is a research made about how if you learn something in a certain amount of time, you will forget it. You only not forget it if you remember it. And to remember it more efficiently, you need to remember it just when you are forgetting it. So that's where Anki gets in. You make decks that contain cards, and that cards will have the information that you want to memorize. In this case, we will have kanji, their stories, their meaning, their readings, if you want to check that. Remember the kanji. We provide the list of kanji, their keyword, that's the meaning. Heisig just uses one meaning, so you don't need to remember a lot of them. And it will help you to create stories by providing primitive names for the components, which are used as a resource to remember the kanji yourself. Because some of the parts of the kanji don't really have names, but Heisig will attempt to make one. So the stories, meanings, and stroke orders should all be contained in the cards of your Anki deck. And Kanji Kuhi is the website where a community provides shared stories for all of the Remember the kanjis, so you don't need to make your own. Because Heisig actually recommends that you make one. But even if you spend like 5 seconds to make each story, you will have to do it 2,200 times, and that will escalate really fast. So I also will provide some links with the deck I use the PDF later.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for coming to the session, and actually,
Yeah.
this is really cool because this is essentially now when you go away to learn kanji. Obviously, I hope that you have more of an understanding of what you could do, but also remember kanji as you're learning it. It'll take time. It's like a journey of understanding what kanji is used for what, but then when you get to the end of that journey, it is a really rewarding feeling. Well, it's not really an end of a journey, to be honest. I think as someone who's learning Japanese, you always like find something new. You might find a kanji that you might not have read before. As you learn kanji, you'll be more familiar and be able to read most kanji quite easily. However, there's that feeling that you will always come across new kanji. You'll always come across things that you might not have seen before, and that's cool. It's all a part of building that database in your mind that of being able to recognize certain kanji and things. It's essentially what do you want to do with the kanji. Like, you might not want to write, then don't so much focus on writing the kanji. Now, writing the kanji can help with learning kanji. However, if it's that you just want to be able to read kanji, then exposing yourself to seeing kanji and being able to try and read kanji is quite useful as well.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to incentivate with this lesson is that learning kanji can be fun when you know how it was created and how it's built and everything like that. And if it serves as something great, when I've learned the 2,200 kanjis from Isaac, I started consuming more material from Japanese. I've even switched my cell phone to Japanese. And I was every time that I find a new kanji, I add it to my Enki deck.
Yeah.
So I've finished it like I think for 2 months right now, and I've only added 10 kanji that I'd never seen in my deck. So I've been 2 months into Japanese like every day, and I've only found the 10 kanji that I didn't see in Remember the Kanji.
Oh, sugoi. That's pretty good actually. It took me a lot longer than 2 months. It's hard, jeez. It took me because
Yeah.
I learned through. I used Wanikani to learn kanji, so it took me. I just followed what Wanikani gave me, so it gave me the flashcards, and I just did that every day. Eventually, I started remembering the kanji, and eventually, I braved myself to go into changing my phone into Japanese as well. But yeah, like I can imagine like being able to only read, to just be able to not understand only 10 kanji. That feels like quite good. It's like
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
like you're able to understand, and that's definitely something you can try doing. Change your phone into Japanese. Just try and remember how to get back to your native language. I think about that kind of thing before when I've switched, and I'm like, oh no, wait, how do I get back? So make sure you know how to get back. But yeah, definitely, if you are exposed to it, you're constantly looking at it. And I'm not talking about looking at kanji in the sense of rigorously studying it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it can be part of the process. I mean, you don't have to rigorously study it. It just has to be consistent, and the best way to be consistent is to be able to just be familiar with seeing kanji, just as normal. So just as you're like, if you're on your phone, you're just trying to work out how to get to call somebody or how to get to the internet, and your mind is just doing the work for you, and you gradually get used to just clicking buttons, and then as you do that, you start picking up what certain kanji is and what certain kanji means, and that's just passive learning. You're not putting direct effort into it, but you're still getting something out of it. So I challenge all of you. Change your phone to Japanese for a day, or maybe just an hour even, and see how you can get around. See if you can do all right.
Yeah, and also when I was learning English like some years ago, I've changed my all my devices to English, and it really helped because I didn't have anyone to practice with, so I was practicing with my devices, with the language, with the input it was giving me. So it's really, really great.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing as well, you can what I started doing now is I made an Instagram account. I had another one, but I made a new one, and I just started following Japanese people. So like, I can go on that and just scroll through Instagram, and just I can just be exposed to like new phrases, new slang, and new kanji, and I don't need to like force myself to try and learn the kanji. I just need to just see the post. It's kind of leisure learning, if you like. You're just learning as you're just enjoying videos and stuff like that, which is it's really good. And another thing that I do as well is like right now I'm reading a light not is it a light novel? Yeah, it's a light novel.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I was given it by my Japanese friend, and then I just decided to read it. And so by reading it, I have to try and understand the story. That's the ultimate aim. So when I come across kanji I don't understand, I quickly put it into my flashcard deck, and then I try to read it and try to understand the meaning and try and picture what the story would be like. Um, and if you manage to go through a whole like light novel and just do like say a page a day or something and gradually go through, or even just a small sentences a day and gradually go through, eventually you'll end up at the end of the book, which is where I am now. I'm nearly the end of the book, and I've picked up so much Japanese, and I'm like, whoa, I understand that and I understand that. So it's been a journey, and plus I've been able to picture how the story goes in my mind, which is really cool. And by doing that, you expose yourself to kanji. You expose yourself to kanji, and you're able to recognize kanji a lot.
Yeah, children books really help, and like manga that's meant for teenagers, because
Yeah,
most
it's
of
true.
teenagers and child don't know kanji. So the kanji there's there almost always will have furigana with them. So even if you don't know how to read it, you can check the furigana.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And furigana, obviously it helps because then you can see the reading in hiragana, and you be like, oh, okay, that's how you pronounce it. Um, I am. So children manga. It's probably a better way to start than light novels. If you're more familiar with kanji and you feel a bit more comfortable, you can pick up a light novel and start learning it. There's some in there's PDF channels. If you look at the library section, there's a section called ebook, basic reading, advanced reading. So you can go there and just have a look at some of the manga and just practice reading some stuff, um, which can really help. Then another
Yeah.
one more thing that helped me as well is I had a book which is I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like called Penguin Parallel Text.
Never heard of it.
Okay. So it's basically parallels in you'll have the English on one side and then you'll have the Japanese on the other side.
Ah,
Yeah. So you basically, as you read one sentence in Japanese, you can quickly look at the English meaning, and then you can kind of work out the kanji, or work out the sentence and what it means, and see how it's built up. Um, which is
yeah,
cool
yeah.
because it means that you can read it. I know it's in English. I'm not sure if it's in any other language. But it's probably worth checking out to see if there's other books in your native language, for example. But that was useful because like I could understand the story, but then if I got lost in the Japanese, I can be like, right, let me just check the English. Oh, okay, and then check it back with the Japanese and see how it worked. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And something awesome about those books is that in that particular parallel text, I'll put a link. I'll send a link to this so you guys can check it out for yourself. In that book, every new kanji you come across, it comes with the furigana. When it comes again, it won't have the furigana. So what that does is that you'll see the kanji once, but then when you see it again, it won't have the furigana. So it tests you to try and see if you can remember how to read it, which is it's super cool. It's helped me. It helped me when I was learning kanji quite a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. So I think some of you were saying that you've changed like some of your video games and stuff into Japanese, which is super good. That's really good. Obviously, it's it helps you to just see it more often, and I think that's the problem with like maybe traditional ways of learning kanji, or so some methods or some ways of teaching will say, oh, kanji is too hard for non-speaking Japanese people, so we're gonna just avoid kanji, which is a very bad. You don't want to. It's been we've just explained kind of why you don't want to. Some methods will be like, some methods will put it in daunting ways of learning kanji. Again, there's no right way to learning kanji, but the wrong way is to just avoid kanji.
Yeah, that's the wrong way.
The wrong way is just to say, right, I'm just not gonna learn kanji. If you're learning Japanese, kanji is all part of that process. So obviously, if it's just a simple piece of advice, just like take it easy. Just approach kanji as you come across it. Don't worry about trying to learn all the meanings and stuff. But yeah. So some of you have said that as well, that you try to watch some anime in Japanese without subtitles. I'm surprised how much I actually understood. And that's a great feeling as well. That's a great feeling.
Yeah, I've lately been listening to some Japanese music, and it feels really good when I just end a lesson. I'm reading through the Taking book right now.
Yeah.
So when I finish a lesson and then listen to a music and then I listen to a new word that I've learned, I am always like, oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, wow, okay. It's like you've just learned it and you're like, oh, okay, that's how they've used it. Oh, wow, that's just like, you see that it's a real language. It's not just a textbook.
It even motivates you to go back and learn more. It's really nice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's something you can do as well. If you're interested, if you like Japanese music, then just go listen to some Japanese songs and find online the lyrics for the song and try and.
Yeah, I've been lately listening to a lot of city pop from the 80s from Japan. Wow, it's really
Japanese
great.
city pop is amazing. It's like I don't know. I think, like, for example, like, have you heard Plastic Love? Because that was the really popular one that just researched like it just happened to be really popular and everyone was like, oh, this is my romantic view of Japan because I've listened to this song. It must be so good to go to Japan because of that song. But it's
You can even figure out some some part of the Japan culture by listening to that kind of music.
Yeah.
Because you can see that they always have that romantic lyrics and the dance rhythm, because that was the beginning of the globalization in Japan. A lot of America films and disco. It's really
definitely
nice.
And if you consider like the history that Sony in the 80s was established, these kind of technical companies, this is where this kind of music this is when Japanese music was really, the industry was really growing at this point, and so you can see in the music how it's just like it's taking advantage of some of the new technology that Japan had. So it's quite cool if you can find some music and listen to some of that. So if you can take the lyrics, you can go and find some lyrics. So I started doing that with Korean. I was learning Korean now. I find the lyrics to the song and then just like write the Korean down, and then I try to translate each word. And then as I'm translating each word, and I break it down, and then I look back at the sentence and I see if I can work out the meaning, and I'm like, okay, this might mean that, okay. And then obviously I'm learning as you're doing that, especially with songs, you're then learning words that are actually used, that are most likely used in often.